Look, when I bought the team 21 seasons ago, I pledged that to be a sustainable winner. But it got to the point where that really wasn't enough. We were all heartbroken last year, obviously, but daunted. Murph has a T-shirt that says "Undaunted." Well, we were daunted because every year after 2018, we didn't advance to where we advanced tonight, and this was a key goal for us. And it's so special that this team would set a record for wins. It's the next team to get to the NLCS.
Just congratulations to the Brewers. It's a very good baseball team and a team that earned their way for the right to play for the World Series. So that's a good baseball team.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
I was trying to figure out what sound I wanted to put in the intro, and I was picking through all the stuff that Mike Clemens emailed us. And I'm like, oh, Mark Attanasio on advance. Oh, okay, we'll hear from the owner. And I just thought it was kind of a funny soundbite. It's like, well, when I bought the team, he's so specific, and I think he's honest to a fault. As if you'll remember back in February, when he's just kind of riffing to reporters. I think Rosenthal and Nightingale were the two ones in Maryvale at the time that wrote stories on it. Where he said, you know what, is it my job to go all in to win a World Series, or do I try to provide a summer of entertainment and passion? And I understood what he was saying. You also can't say it that way because you know how people are going to read that and react. He's just very honest. And I loved that comment because he's like, well, we wanted to build a sustainable winner, and then it's clear that wasn't enough. So it became our goal to win around. It's like, just say that you really want to win a championship and just leave it there. Just say that and leave it there. I also always crack up when sports teams have their biggest moments. It's like, and let's hear from the owner, who we never hear from because, they don't play or they don't coach. It's just kind of a funny thing in sports. The owner always speaks up. So you heard that in the intro there. And then you also heard Craig Counsell because, well, I'm just a vindictive prick. So that's why I put that in there. We'll hear from players. We'll hear from Murph as the show goes throughout. But those were the two cuts that jumped out to me, and I wanted to put those in the intro. My name is Grant Bills. This is the Wisco Sports Show. I hope you had a great weekend. The Brewers made it very easy. The Badgers lost in a way where, I don't even know how you can be bummed or sad about that loss. I think you just kind of have to laugh. They've become a team that we almost hate watch at this point. And everyone has different investment levels, right? Like, I'm sure if you're an alumni or a former player, it probably means more to you. It hurts. Like, this is my thing. Look at to the place that it's got. Now, I didn't go to UW. I went to UW La Crosse. I didn't go to UW Madison. So it's a little less personal to me. It is my college football team, and it's sad to see the state that they're in. But I'm past the point of being bummed out and sad. I watched and I go, holy crap, you guys. So I want to discuss that tonight as well. And we'll discuss the Packers too. I tweeted this yesterday, and the first thought that I had when I woke up was, Packers, just please win a boring game, have nothing crazy happen. Just check the box of getting a win against a crappy opponent off the bye. And we'll talk about the game, but I didn't want the Packers to make themselves the lead story tonight. And with that game yesterday, I certainly don't think they did. So I want to lead with the Brewers and talk a lot about that. The Badgers and what happened on Saturday actually interest me more than what the Packers did yesterday. But we'll no doubt cover all three of the big games from the weekend. And then we're right back at it tonight. We got no time to breathe. Aaron Ashby is going to open for the Brewers. I would expect him to go an inning. And then probably Quinn Priester. Although we've been surprised before with the Brewers and the way they've deployed certain pitchers, because they really have Freddie Peralta, the one true starter. And then Quintana and Priester is the length guys, but they've deployed those two guys a little bit differently. So who knows? We'll get ready for game one against the Dodgers in the NLCS tonight. Plenty of time for your calls. No guests tonight. Nothing planned other than reaction to the games from the weekend and preparation for tonight. So I'll take your calls throughout at 608-321-1670. And the live stream is up and running. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, the places where you watch all of your shows, because God forbid a radio show just exists on the radio in 2025. It's got to be everywhere, which is fun. I complain to complain sometimes, and I poke fun to poke fun. But the Wisco Sports Zone app has everything. You can watch Bill's show there. You can watch my show. You can listen to all the podcasts. You can watch Zach and Jesse on the camp. They absolutely cooked this weekend, as expected. Hard-hitting analysis and just kind of laying it all on the table in looking at the current state of the Badgers program. So all that's on the app. Can't recommend it enough. The Wisco Sports Zone app. Free to download. Super easy. All the shows and all the content that we create on this network are right there. I do want to start with the Brewers. Like I said, I could not watch the games at Wrigley, especially game 4. I was sick to my stomach even thinking about the Brewers in those spots. I was sick to my stomach with Freddie Peralta on the hill. I was sick to my stomach at the idea that the series would either go to a game 5. I was just and I think I told you this last Thursday and last Friday. My stomach was in a knot. I didn't watch most of game 4. I listened and I watched the StatCast kicker. And I think Saturday night was, at the very least, one of the the 3 or 4 most important Brewers games of my lifetime. And let's just say, this century, this current era. You could go all the way back to the 80s, of course, in that World Series run, and you could talk about the NLCS in 2011 and 2018. But even if you put NLCS games above Game 5 on Saturday, which I think you probably should, because those are games to play for the World Series. Those are a pretty big deal. At the lowest, this was the 3rd or 4th most important game of many of our lifetimes, certainly this century, this current era of Brewers baseball. And I didn't mean to sound negative last week. I was just being an honest to goodness fan. And the idea of the series going the distance and the Brewers losing it after winning the first 2 was just making me sick to my stomach. Saturday, however, I reached Zen. I reached a little bit of a flow state, if you will. I was watching at a bar. I was out of town. I was over in the La Crosse area this weekend. It was the last weekend of fly fishing. So we were there doing some fishing. And Saturday night, it's like, well, let's go watch the game somewhere. And about the 6th or the 7th inning, I actually kind of started to forget about the rivalry, Brewers Cubs. And I actually stopped thinking about the Craig Counsell angle of all of it. Or maybe it was the beers. It's easier. Maybe if you're having a couple and you're hanging out with friends, it kind of lowers the pressure. Whereas if I'm home alone watching, in my living room in the peace and quiet, it's like, yeah, maybe I would have felt those things a little bit more. But in the 6th or the 7th inning of Game 5 on Saturday, I just kind of got swept up in the baseball game. I got caught in the baseball of it all. And the rest of the stuff kind of blended into the background, or I was able to forget about it for a couple of innings, because these two teams, I tell you what, neither the Brewers nor the Cubs are perfect. Neither of these teams are perfect. They both have weaknesses. They're better at some things. They're worse at others when you compare the two. But I walked away from Saturday night's game thinking, man, those are 2 really good baseball teams. And the Brewers set a franchise record for wins. I don't think any of us were skeptical of how good this Brewers team is, at least relative to Brewers teams of the past. And now, if you start comparing them to the Dodgers or, the amazing Phillies teams back in the day, or, take your pick, sure, then you could say, well, the Brewers aren't as good as that team or that. But they won 97 games. They set a franchise record for wins. And you can't really look at the Brewers in the context of the Brewers and say that this team was anything other than awesome, right? But I think the Brewers have a great shot against the Dodgers. I think the Cubs would have too. Neither team is going to be favored. The Cubs wouldn't have been favored against the Dodgers. But I think both the Brewers and Cubs were very capable of advancing through the DS into the CS. And I think both teams would have given the Dodgers a good run for their money. And just talking about the Cubs as I'm watching this game on Saturday night, I started to think, like, man, Seiya Suzuki terrified me that whole series. Like, anytime they could retire that guy, it felt like we could exhale and take a deep breath. Even his outs in Game 5. So we had the home run early, but then even his outs, one off Chad Patrick, and then another, I don't know if it was in the 8th or the 9th off Uribe. Like, he put a charge into both of those balls. And off the bat, I'm like, ooh. And then you see, Churios settling under it, or Blake Perkins or whoever it was. I know there were 2 liners that he just smoked and probably missed by a matter of a quarter inch or a half inch on the bat. He was terrifying in this series. Michael Busch was awesome throughout, to the point where we're talking about how do we get through the Michael Busch spot in the order. Nico Horner might just be one of the better hitters in all of baseball. Just talking about pure hitters, go up there and put together an at bat and put the ball in play and get a shot. Like, Nico was so good. And I think the Cubs were probably 1 or 2 pitchers short, or honestly, a Kyle Tucker away. Like, if Kyle Tucker was Kyle Tucker in the second half of the year and Kyle Tucker in this playoff series, that might have been the difference. If he gives them 2 swings, over the course of 5 total games, if he did, let's say, what William Contreras did. Contreras wasn't lighting the ball up, but he had a couple big moments. If Kyle Tucker would have done that, the Cubs probably would have won. The Cubs and the Brewers split the season series 9-9, right? I read that correctly. They played 18 total games and they split 9-9. I think the Cubs won the regular season series by 1 game. These 2 teams were evenly matched. And I think in this series, home field was probably the difference. I asked Bill earlier, like, do you think if Game 5 was at Wrigley, do you think the Brewers would have won? And he goes, no, probably not. And I don't even know that American Family Field is some crazy home field advantage for the Brewers. It certainly helps. They played great on the road this year too. I just think Wrigley is such an advantage for the Cubs. You could see it in games 3 and 4 and how that impacted Priester and how that impacted Peralta in his second start. He looked much better in game 1 at American Family Field. He had a lead early, but that's, never stopped Freddie Peralta or, former Brewer starting pitchers in the postseason like Corbin Burns. Sometimes those players have been given early leads and it hasn't allowed them to pitch and to, sail smoothly through 4, 5, 6 innings. And Freddie was able to do that in game 1. So credit to him, but the Wrigley Field effect was clear in games 3 and games 4. And I think if game 5 is at Wrigley or Kyle Tucker puts 2 swings on a ball or Cade Horton is healthy, like this series was so close. And I referenced this on Friday. I almost wish in this series that the wins and losses would have alternated. I almost wish the Brewers would have won game 2 or won game 1, lost game 2, won game 3, lost game 4, because then it would have, I think that would have been a more representative series. That progression of wins and losses would have been a little bit more representative. It felt like the Brewers were about to run away with it. And then it felt like the Brewers were about to blow it. And then game 5 was very, very competitive right down until the end, especially in that 6th inning when it felt like, oh boy, here we go. Ashby puts a couple of guys on. I just don't know, because of the Brewers-Cubs rivalry and because of the Craig Counsell thing, I think we lost ourselves in the series a little bit. And this is probably true of both fan bases. I don't know that we fully grasped how close and how competitive this series is. And Brewers fans, our team, like I said, they set a franchise record for wins with 97. They've never done that before. So I think we believed in our team. The Cubs won 92 games, and that's a legit team as well. They're good and they're weak in different areas than the Brewers are good and weak. But I walked away from that game Saturday night, especially when we got into like the 6th inning or the 7th inning. I'm like, man, these two teams are within an inch of each other. The series is going to come down to the final out of the final inning in the final game. And it just feels like either one of these teams, I was sitting there thinking like, man, if the Cubs come back and win this, watch him give the Dodgers a run because Seiya's feeling it and Bush has been white hot and Kyle Tucker, whatever you want to do with him. Like if he just puts a couple of good swings into a ball and does, again, what William Contreras did, that series might be different. And I seriously think that either one of these teams that advanced from the DS is going to go on. And I think the Brewers will at the very least give the Dodgers a really, really good series. I think they could beat them. I mean, they swept him out of the regular season for whatever that's worth. This is a team that's playing with a ton of confidence. Churrio's going to get healthier. They loaded up with a little more pitching. Nick Mears not on the playoff roster, but they're going to take Tobias Myers instead. Gives them a little more length. And I also just don't know that Nick Mears was performing the way that Nick Mears had performed. Nick Mears, for the longest time, was the Brewers' fireman, right? He'd come in with runners on. And at a certain point, that stopped making sense because Nick Mears no longer had swing and miss stuff. And if Nick Mears can't miss at bats, okay, well, I'd rather have Tobias Myers because Tobias Myers could pitch 2 or 3 innings. Nick Mears is probably only going to give you 1. And if he can't come in for that 1 inning and dominate and miss bats, I don't really have use for him, right? So that was a little bit of a tweak going from 5-game to a 7-game. And I think the Brewers will give the Dodgers a very good series at the least. I don't know who I'd pick it today. Let's watch how game 1 goes tonight. And we'll either be all in on the Brewers going to the World Series or all the way out on this team ever winning or accomplishing anything. That's how baseball goes. But it's just wild to me. The series came down to like 2 swings by each team and 2 pitchers. And for the Brewers, that was Mizorowski and Chad Patrick. I don't think we can overstate how massive those 2 guys were. And as we talk about and we pick over the Cubs series for the next 2 hours before we, then start to focus on what comes next, I think Mizorowski and Chad Patrick are probably the 2 biggest stories. I'm not shocked that Chad Patrick was good. I am a little shocked that Miz was good and as good as he was. I'm stunned that the Brewers chose to use him the way that they did. You talk about big balls decisions. Going to Mizorowski in the 2 spots they went to him. They went to him in a tie game in game 2 and said, here you go. Like right away. There was no cushion. There was no, like, he was thrown into the fire in game 2 and then not just thrown into the fire in game 5, but thrown into the fire in game 5 in a way where, like, if this doesn't work, I don't know what the Brewers were going to do. If Mizorowski came in on Saturday night and was not really good, or he put a couple of guys on and it was clear that he couldn't find the zone, I don't know what the Brewers' backup plan was. Probably Quinn Priester, I guess. We said this on Friday's show. I wanted to know how far down the list, the contingencies list for the Brewers, like how far down was Quinn Priester? If this happens, we'll go here. If this happens, we'll go here. If this happens, I want to know at what point on the list, like where did Quinn Priester sit? They rolled Mizrowski out there as the plan in a defining Game 5 and probably one of the 2 or 3 biggest Brewer games this century. And no recent data would indicate that that was a good idea. There was no precedent. There was no data over the last 2 months with the way that Mizrowski had been throwing to indicate, do this, it will work. But they did that, and it worked. And I think Game 5, both with Mizrowski and the way that Uribe pitched and the way that Patrick pitched, but also the way that Contreras swung the bat and Vaughn and then that Terang homer, which was just beautiful. I think they exercised so many demons on Saturday night. And that's another reason why I have some hope for the Dodgers series. Getting over that hump and winning a series and winning a game Saturday night, let's be honest, Brewers fans, that game felt like every game that they've blown. It was setting up to where the later that game got and the longer the Brewers were winning, the more I was sitting there watching thinking, oh, this is setting up for just like last year or 2 years ago with the Diamondbacks or back to 2019 with the Nationals. It felt 2021 when Hader came in and faced Freeman and the Braves. They've had so many playoff games since 2018 that felt exactly like that. And the fact that the worm turned and they were able to win that game and make pitches and make swings that they haven't been able to make really for the better part of 7 or 8 years now. It just really excites me for maybe what's possible next. And the Dodgers are incredible, and I thought they might be dead, and then they get into the playoffs, and they look like the same old Dodgers, right? They look like the evil empire again, the Death Star. It looks like it's fully operational. But I think, just look no further than the work they got from Miz when I didn't expect it, the work they got from Patrick, and some of the swings. Contreras looks engaged in a way that he didn't last year. They didn't get anything from Yelich, so anything they get from Yelich in this series will be, a bonus. Hopefully he saved all his hits. My hope as a Brewers fan is that they just needed to see that proverbial ball go through the hoop. We just need to win a playoff series, and now we can breathe and play baseball. And after all, folks, this was a really good baseball team. The 97-win baseball team now just gets to play baseball. And that excites me, and that's why I'm going to carry some enthusiasm into this Dodgers series, even though they're going to be heavy underdogs. And Murph says it loudly, and it annoys people, but he's right. Like, this could not be a starker contrast between two playoff opponents and the way that two different organizations build teams 2 different ways. Enough for me. I want your Brewers thoughts next. I'll go right to your phone calls on the other side at 608-321-1670.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Zone Blitz pregame bash is back. Every Wisconsin home game 2 hours before kickoff at the Blue Moon Bar and Grill. And this year, do I have something special for you? It's a perfect snack for game day or any day. Wenzel's Farm Pro Snack Sticks. Come see me and I'll hand you 16 grams of protein to fuel you through the day. Wenzel's Farm offers that and so much more, crafted in small batches using premium cuts of meat, perfectly seasoned, and naturally hardwood smoked. Check out wenzelsfarm.com. Made by pros for pros.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. We're going to go fast and furious tonight because I do want to get to everything. I have some observations from the Packers game yesterday. Not the biggest, juiciest Packers game of all time, but I'm kind of happy about it. The Packers didn't make themselves the lead story yesterday, but still got the win. So we can lead with the Brewers, and I want to pick at the Badgers too because that was... I wouldn't have picked them to win. I couldn't even have expected a result like that. The Brewers lineup is out. It is the same, except Isaac Collins starting in left instead of Perkins being in center, which is a little odd because when I saw the Brewers lineup come out, or the playoff roster, I should say, the one thing I thought was like, man, Collins has looked so bad. Like, why even carry him? Why even bring him? Take another pitcher. And it's clear they had this idea. So the outfield tonight will be Yelich DHing, Churio in right, Frelick in center, and Collins in left. Interesting. If it works, it'll be brilliant. And if it doesn't work and they lose, it'll be the stupidest thing ever. You know how this works, which is mostly how we approach manager decisions in the playoffs. Your calls very, very quickly. I'm sorry I made you wait. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
This is a bronze boomer.
Hey, Pete, what's going on?
I'm just calling because I want a pledge out of you that from now on you are never going to whine and use that lame excuse about the Brewers can't win because they're a small market.
Well, if they lose to the Dodgers, I'll say that for the next month.
Well, all the other big markets are out: Chicago, Philadelphia, Houston, both New York. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
You're good.
So it may just be that the Dodgers are well managed.
Oh, it's both. Pete, I've said that before. The Dodgers do a great job developing players. They do. The Dodgers are exceptionally well run, and they spend a bunch of money. Those other big markets, you can't always say the same for those.
Yeah, well, the stuff about the big markets was the one when most of their games were on local television, and the Brewers could only get well, if they were lucky, maybe $10 million from local television. Then it became who could get money from cable, but cable's out too. I mean, most teams. I don't. The Dodgers have this big cable. Money from cable, but that's going to run out, and they're going to have the same problem. I think that there may not be a salary cap, but they may. But the MLB may just sell their television rights. They may claim them all, and then they may parcel those out individually because things like the Yankees or Nesson or the Cubs. Cable TV, they're at streaming, and they're not doing that well. So I don't know, about local. I mean, small market had to do with local television rights, and that's like yesterday's news. I want a pledge: no more whining about we're from a small market.
Well, first of all, Pete, and we just got loaded phone lines, so this probably isn't the day to do this. I don't know that I've whined a lot this summer about small market stuff and payroll stuff. Again, if they lose to the Dodgers and it's because the Dodgers overwhelm the Brewers with their star talent, then I probably will a little bit. And I think that's good natured. I think any baseball fan would watch. It's like, okay, it's the small market Brewers versus the big time. And I saw stories about, the series from national baseball writers hinting at that. It's an easy story. It's an easy storyline, no doubt. I've never said the Dodgers just win because of money. They're exceptionally well run. I don't know that Nesson or SNY or Marquee. You said they don't make much money from that. I'm not sure that I don't know. I would be surprised if they're not making any money from that. The Dodgers cable deal is incredible. They got in at the right time and it was negotiated. That they have a huge market and a large subscriber base, but also the nature of that cable deal and the way that it was locked in. And I don't want to get into this right now. Is money on top of money on top of money on top of money, and then their sponsors with, players like Otani and Yamamoto, that just, keeps the cash rolling in. No, I mean, that's going to be a storyline in the series, Pete, for sure. I don't know why you're harping on that today. I appreciate the call. I enjoyed talking to you always. Let's go to line number 2, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant, it's Odie and Marinette.
Odie. What's going on, Odie?
Here. I called you the other day. I told you.
Mm-hmm.
I talked you off the cliff. I told you to relax. I told you they were going to throw Miz. I told you he was going to be okay.
You did say that. The couple Miller Lights that I had during the game on Saturday helped a lot. Unfortunately, on Tuesday night at 10 o'clock, that's not always the best option for watching a baseball game. I don't think it's a good idea.
I agree. We were watching at a wedding I was at. We were watching when the Miz came in on somebody's phone, streaming it because there was no TV. Well, yelling at it at the reception. But this team, I don't know why they wouldn't be favored with the Dodgers. The best team in baseball. They had the best record. I think they can do it. I don't think there's any reason they can't.
I'm with you, Odie. I appreciate it. And I said that in our opening segment. I think the Brewers can play the Dodgers. I think they can beat them. They're not going to be favored because of the talent disparity on paper, at least, is overwhelming. And a lot of those guys, Freeman and Betts, have proven to be playoff performers. It's not like the Mets where they just signed a bunch of names. It's like, well, look at it on paper. They should win. The Dodgers have shown that this combination of players can win. I think the Brewers, just look at the regular season, the way they play the Dodgers. I think they can play the Dodgers stuff, and I think they can win. Absolutely. I wouldn't bet on it, and neither will Vegas. I can pull up the line, I suppose, but I'll tell you they're minus blah, 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 and then we'll move on. It number means nothing to me and probably means nothing to a lot of you. Let's go to line number 3, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Wow, riveting stuff from Pete and Monona on the heels of our first NLCS in 7 years. It was really good stuff to lead off the Wisco Sports Show.
I didn't know what to tell him. It's like, I don't know, man. The Dodgers have a lot of money. The Brewers don't. I don't know. Let's wait. Let's see how the series plays out before we, define terms of how we're going to talk about it.
Anyone can beat anybody in baseball over a 7-game series. I think we should all believe the vibes really have never been higher around this team. Game 5 might have been the most fun Brewer game I've ever watched. Yeah. You had Ryan Braun out there pregame, amping up the team, telling the fans to get jacked, that these players feed off the energy. The crowd looked electric. Bryce Terang with the sexy home run stroke.
Sweet.
PCA being an idiot trying to rob these home runs 40 feet over his head.
Why does he keep doing that? It doesn't trigger me. I just think it's kind of funny. I just don't know what is he doing? Maybe he can't read the center field wall in Milwaukee? I don't know, but the fact that he keeps doing it makes me laugh.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious.
That's funny.
And it was just so good to send Craig Counsell packing all the way back to Whitefish Bay.
Do you think he'll have some time this offseason to go see a George Webb now? He can do some sightseeing.
Oh, yeah, George Webb. Yeah, that's right. He's never even seen one, funny enough.
Yeah, that
screw him and screw the Cubs. I don't even care about them anymore. We are on to LA, on to the Dodgers. I'm nervous for today, but why not us?
I am excited. Why not us, Cone? I agree. That's some much needed optimism. Normally, this is not a pep rally type of show, but you win your first playoff series in 7 or 8 years after just getting kicked in the beans. I think it's warranted. And you talk about the vibes. I said in the opening segment, I think it's probably really important for this team and for this organization to see the ball go through the proverbial hoop. And this is true of so many things in life. When you're trying to accomplish something and you're failing and you're struggling, to just see it work once, to just see the ball go through the hoop. I think for this team to finally advance and to finally win around and to have that close game at home where you had the lead and it felt like it was about to happen, to actually have it happen, hopefully that's something that, empowers them and gives them more good mojo, because they're going to need some to beat the Dodgers. Again, a team of that talent and that experience too. It's not like they're just an all-star team. Like, that's a team that's been constructed and developed, and they've done it before. They've won before. So it's not like LeBron's first year in Miami where it's like, well, they should. Just look at how much talent they have. This is a little different. And hopefully the power of advancing through that round, which is something they've been trying so hard to do, hopefully that gives them a little extra mojo going into this round, because they're going to need it. Let's take another call. Appreciate it, Cone. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant, Clemhead Mike.
Hey, Clemhead. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I am good. Excellent weekend, and had a blast watching the Brewers win. That made my weekend a lot better. I would have managed. I would have dealt with it, but I'm glad that I don't have to. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Hey, Pete, buddy, it's not whining if it's true, okay? Grant doesn't whine, so.
I mean, I might whine if the Brewers look like crap and they lose the Dodgers. Like, I'll piss and moan about payroll a ton. I've always said, Clemhead, the small market card is an important one to play, and we can play it. You need to be selective about when you bring it out. So I don't like to use the small market card in June. I like to wait until the NLCS, and then we have that card to play, and it pops a little bit better.
Good point, Grant. I just want to tell you, all my sports this weekend was put into perspective because my son had cancer surgery in 2020. He had part of his kidney removed. And after many years of intensive testing, Friday he was declared cancer-free. And the sports just didn't matter as much to me.
That's true. It's good perspective.
So,
well, and congratulations to you and your son. And then you got to celebrate by watching the game.
Yeah, his name is Clemhead Jr. His name is Mike Jr., so he can be Clemhead Mike Jr. So.
a little Clemhead Jr. No, that's awesome. I mean, congratulations to you both.
Thanks. Yeah. So I just you've mentioned this before about me. I do kind of put my sports in perspective. I try not to let it destroy me. I'll be really happy when we win, and I'll be sad when we lose. But my life will go on.
And that's great perspective. It's one that we could always probably have more. This game was a little different, Clemhead. I appreciate the call. I am never going to be someone, if there's a function or a get-together, family gathering or whatever, and there's a Packer game on and the Packers lose, it's never going to be me who's like being a prick and a miserable guy. Like, I'm not going to let it. This would have tested me. Like the Cubs coming back after being down 0-2, and it's Craig Counsell. It's like this would have pushed the boundary of don't let sports ruin your real life. This one might have, but I'm glad we don't have to deal with that. Got time for a couple more calls here, and then we got to get a break in. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hi, this is Nathan from by Fountain City.
Hey, Nathan, what's going on? Love Fountain City.
I just noticed something on Saturday's game that I hadn't noticed throughout the year. I probably watched over like 100 games. I don't know if you have thoughts on it, but I noticed on Saturday, Christian Yelich was DHing, and he couldn't get on the base or get a hit. He was struggling. I don't know if throughout the year if it made a difference from if he's in the field or if he's DHing sitting on the bench, if he struggles or hits better.
He just DH'd such a majority of the time. I don't know if the data would even be indicative, and I can pull up the splits. I don't think that's what's impacted him in this series. I think he came up in some tough spots. Like, dealing with Thielbar is tough. My frustration with Yelich is like, buddy, I don't need a home run every time you're up there, but at some point I want a moment. And especially, runners on second and third, nobody out. Can you make contact? If you roll over or you hit a line drive into the outfield that's not deep enough, I can deal with it. But there were some pretty feeble at bats mixed into that series for him.
Yeah, it was some typical swinging at stuff that wasn't even close.
Yeah.
But it's something I'll be curious to watch tonight with him at the DH again.
Well, and I can give it to you. I appreciate the call. And thank you for listening. And do you say over by Fountain City? Is that Fountain City proper? We talk about Cochrane up towards Alma. We can be specific. The breakdown as a left fielder this year, he had 67 at bats. He had 254. As a DH, he had 502 at bats, and he hit 340 or 261, 265. So it's like 10 percentage points. The overwhelming, put it this way, he should be comfortable as a DH. That shouldn't be a factor in any struggles or successes because that's a majority of the time what he did this season. So, and that adjustment period would have ended 4 or 5 months ago, even if it was. That might have played a role early. Learning how to DH is certainly different. But he also did that a little bit last year, too. He might have done it a lot last year. I can't even remember. One more call, and then we come back. I want to play you some audio. People are discussing this L flag down on the field, and I think it's an awesome sports radio topic. So we'll get into that. But one more call here before our break. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Ron from Madison.
Hey, Ron, what's going on? I heard you on Bill's show earlier. Excellent call. Good game balls for the Packers. I tip my cap to you.
Yeah. Friday I called you and I said the Brewers would win Saturday night. I was confident.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm picking the Brewers to win this series in 6 games. That's how confident I am of this team.
Is there a reason why? Just a gut feeling? It's okay to have a gut feeling. I'm just curious.
Gut feeling. I wouldn't gamble. I don't gamble, but I just like the way we're playing, and We get a lead. We get a few runs. We get a lead, and with our pitching and bullpen, I just.
Well, I mean, look at it this way, Ron. If we're talking about different game states, right? If the Brewers take an early lead, appreciate the call, or they fall behind early, they've shown in both instances they can continue to add to a lead and that they can fight back from an early deficit. And that's a pretty good place to be as a team. What you don't want is they can only win one way, right? They need to get an early lead or they need to keep it low scoring. They've shown that they can win games in just about every single form and fashion. They need home runs. They got that in their back pocket. They need to play some small ball. I'd like to see a little bit more of that this series. Got a little bit home run reliant, but that's fine if you can hit them. That's fine. I would prefer some more guys on base if we're going to hit home runs. That's fine. Turang's home run the other night was very close to being a 2-run homer, but PCA made a great play to keep that ball off the turf and center from Ortiz. So he easily could have been on for that. So that, considering things like that. But Ron, I think you're right. They've shown that they can jump out to an early lead and build on it and hold it. And they've shown they can fall behind early and fight back, and it doesn't faze them too much. So yeah, the number one thing for me is if I'm trying to convince myself and be optimistic about their odds against the Dodgers, who will be the strong favorites, I just think winning that first playoff series in a while. We always talk about folks get into the playoffs and get hot. Well, in order to get in the playoffs and get hot, you need to win a round because then you try to build on that. So hopefully the Brewers can do that thing. Hopefully that's what that Game 5 win does for them. It gets them hot. It propels them in a way they haven't really been able to. This is the idea. Get into the playoffs, win a round, and see if you can carry it. And now that they've won a round, we get to see if they can carry it. When we come back, a very hot button issue, especially in the sports talk radio world, the sports media. Did you see the Brewers had an L flag? I think it's very funny. I think the reaction from other people is the best part, the reaction to the reaction. So we'll do that next. It's the Wisco Sports Show.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
They can take that L flag.
Oh,
all right?
really?
I mean, they're
Really?
so consumed with Craig Counsell and the Cubs that they have to celebrate with an L flag.
Well, I do think that was classless.
Dude.
That
no,
was classless.
I'm not
You know,
dude. We've
no,
been down this road
dude,
before.
Dude,
That was classless.
you do a website, you do a podcast called Fly the W.
Thank you.
Okay. So if you're going to fly the W at them, aren't they entitled to fly an L with
No,
an
Fly
H?
the W,
you know
we
that's
fly
wrong.
the W
You know
against
that's
anybody,
wrong.
not just against the Brewers.
There is no.
You know that's wrong.
There's no need to get butthurt over that.
Yeah,
Just grow up.
I totally,
Aching.
I totally understand that. That was classless. You are the Milwaukee Brewers, and you won a big series. That should be enough. You don't need to be that guy.
That was. I don't think anyone thought it through. Somebody threw a flag out there.
They
and
probably didn't think. They clearly didn't think it through.
I
It
don't
leaves a
think it
mark,
was.
though.
Yeah,
Photos are indelible.
But get over it. I mean, seriously.
That's Molly and Han, 670 The Score this morning. I grabbed that sound because it just cracks me up. I don't have strong opinions on this one way or another. When I saw the picture from after the game and Trevor McGill's holding the L flag, it's like, oh boy, that's going to go over like a fart in church. We're actually going to be joined by our resident Cubs fan on this network for the last 5 or 6 minutes of this hour. Austin Harper is going to tap in and give us his perspective. I saw him quote tweeting Bill Michaels earlier today, fighting people. Austin, I don't hold it against him that he's a Cubs fan, or I think he's a Michigan fan as well. Packers fan, but that's about it for this state. I don't hold any of that against him. Sometimes I question his strategies of picking fights with certain people who he may or may not work with. I don't know what he thinks he's getting out of that. We'll talk with him in a bit. Here's where I stand on the L flag. I think this is very simple, and I think this is applicable to so many teams in different sports. There are teams that have traditions, or let's just say loosely, things that are historical and that are attributed with the team, right? The Cubs have the W flag. And as I see the lectures on Twitter about, well, the history of the W flag is that, yeah, I know the Cubs have been around forever. They fly the W in the alpha. I understand the tradition. Things like, the horns for the Longhorns, the cheese head for the Packers, which wasn't created in the 1890s or whatever, but it's been a thing for 40 years. It was created in the late 80s, I think, as we're told on every Sunday Night Football broadcast. That and the Fire Truck Museum in Oshkosh or Appleton or wherever that is. It's the same B-roll. They might as well just run it. They don't need to get new stuff every year on NBC. They can just run the same stuff. Anytime you have a thing that's attributed with your franchise and your team that's historical and that's established, other fan bases are going to play off of that. That's how it works. It's actually complementary. The fact that the L flag is flown is actually a testament to the staying power and the tradition of the W flag. If you want to, Cubs fans, if you want to think it's disrespectful or offensive or it's petty, sure, I don't care. I'm not going to argue with you on that. The arguments, the things that I love is, and I think you heard, what is it, David Haw? I don't know that show very well other than the clips that I've seen. It's basically like, you just won a playoff series, and the first thing you think about is the Cubs? Well, yeah, the team that you beat in the series was the Cubs. So if 2 weeks from now, they're still effing around with an L flag or Brewers fans are still tweeting, well, then yeah, then it's dumb. But don't you get 24, 48 hours? Like, isn't that how this is supposed to work? Are we acting like if the Cubs hadn't advanced, they would be giving it back to the Brewers with traditions or with things of their own? The American Family North or the AmFam North or Wrigley North, I guess is what it would be, Wrigley North. Like, that's how it works. The second the game ends, you don't have to move on. That shouldn't be the expectation. Like, the game ends in the 9th inning. Nobody talks about the Cubs. Nobody references Cubs because we're on the Dodgers. I think you get a couple of hours. I think that's reasonable. I think that's fair. I don't know that if I was on the team that I would want to be the one holding that in the picture. But Trevor McGill was cut by the Cubs or optioned or DFA'd once upon a time by the Cubs. There's some real, that's a real thing. And the Counsell thing is a real thing. It's like, oh, the Brewers are so obsessed with Craig Counsell. Yeah, probably. Screw that guy. That was maybe the most annoying thing in this whole series was the lectures or the explanations from Chicago people or national baseball people who, of course, never covered this thing in the first place. And now they parachute into a playoff series. And like, I don't understand the animosity. Did I say animosity? I don't understand the animosity between. I mean, Craig Counsell was great for the Brewers. Why are fans? I had someone tweet at me last week. Well, Dexter Fowler went from the Cubs to the Cardinals, and we didn't say boo. It's like, are you guys being intentionally dense, or is the collective IQ of the general American public just much lower than I assume? It's probably both. Like, I think there are lots of stupid people. And I think some people are intentionally dense. And it's probably people that work in the sport and that have known Craig Counsell forever and they interact with these people on a human level. And there's some value there. I think when you're talking about the sports or the teams or the games, sometimes it helps to be above all that stuff. You don't get caught up in personal feelings towards one person or another that could, cloud takes. I just don't understand. I hear from people like, I don't get the big deal. I don't understand why Brewers fans or why the Brewers would have anything against Craig Counsell. Well, did you not turn your brain all the way on this morning? Are you behind on sleep? Like, this isn't hard. So yeah, there's going to be some animosity there. It's a real rivalry, and whatever team was going to come out on top in the series was like, there was going to be a little smack talk. It's an L flag on the field. Okay. You think it's petty, fine. You think it's disrespectful. I would tell you it's actually quite respectful because it's something worth parody. It's something that's worth making fun of. And a lot of teams don't have that stuff. The Lambeau Leap is another one. Like, when teams come in and do that, it's only because the Lambeau Leap is historically established and considered like the Packers thing. That's why people make fun of it or they parody it. It's the same with the W flag. It's actually a compliment. It speaks to the staying power and the tradition that is the W flag. But also, like, Cubs fans, if you think it's petty or stupid, fine. I'm not going to argue with it. Of course it's petty and stupid. But don't you get 24 to 48 hours to be petty and stupid? They just won a series and they're still thinking about the Cubs. Well, the next series hasn't started yet. You get to celebrate a little bit. They spray beer around in the clubhouse. I don't know. We'll get the other perspective. I believe this is his maiden voyage on this show. Actually, Austin Harper is going to join us from somewhere in Whitewater, maybe from the back of a Jimmy John's. I don't know what he's up to. I said, hey, you have an invite if you want to pop on for 5 minutes and explain the Cubs perspective of that, I don't know, Flaggate or whatever we're calling it. I find it a very compelling sports radio topic. It means very little in the actual baseball of it all, but I'm having fun kind of talking about it. So we'll wrap up the hour with Austin Harper, our not an intern, our producer, our handyman, our Ben Zobrist, if you will, our Joe Inglet, perhaps, our Isaac Collins. All right, enough. Austin will join us next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Just congratulations to the Brewers. It's a very good baseball team and a team that earned their way for the right to play go to the World Series. So that's a good baseball team.
That's Craig Counsell one more time. I don't know why that keeps getting played. It's our back end producer. Just I don't pick the cuts. I just react to them. So I don't know where that keeps coming from. Keeps popping up. We'll get back to your phone calls to start hour number 2 and some texts. I see them all. I promise I'll get to you. I actually want to talk Badgers in hour number 2 as well. I'll give you some Packers takes, but for the most part, much to my approval yesterday, the Packers just won a very boring game, didn't make themselves a story, which allows us to talk baseball and the Badgers today, which I find to be a much more compelling story just because they suck so bad. Austin Harper is here. He's our resident Cubs fan. Austin, first, can you hear me? Is this working okay?
Hello, check.
What's your degree, by the way? Don't you have like audio? You have
Yes,
audio.
I'm a journalism major, and then I will graduate in May with a minor in marketing and audio design.
Okay, well, you did a banger job joining this. I can see you and hear you clearly.
We've got the mic on. We're good.
If
Technical difficulties surpassed.
I can write you one. Are you mad about this flag thing? Everyone's making a big deal out of it. You're not actually mad about this, are you?
I was listening to a show before. I do think it's petty and stupid, but I also think that's the intention of what the Brewers were trying to do. It's a rivalry. It's what it's supposed to do. Packers Twitter was up in arms when Sauce Gardner was wearing a cheese head, and he's done it twice.
It's the same thing.
It's the same exact thing. So I'm not mad, but that's what they're supposed. It's like I feel like that's what I'm supposed to feel.
You're not supposed to feel happy. Your team just lost. It would be exactly like if the Brewers lose. Like the Cubs fans are not supposed to facilitate my happiness. That's not how this works. Why do you think the Cubs lost? To talk about the actual baseball at all, why did the Cubs lose this series?
It really comes down to clutch hitting. I would say the Brewers' last 10 runs at AmFam Field were all with 2 outs in games 2 and 5. I think game 2 is what lost the series, if we put it that way. Andrew Vaughn's home run in the bottom of the first inning, game 2, was the most important at bat of all 5 games. I will say.
I like that framing.
I think
it felt like the biggest moment when it happened. That was so
Yes.
significant.
Obviously, also he ended up game-winning home run in Game 5 too. So MVP Andrew Vaughn, who would have thought? But
Better than Kyle Tucker in the second half of 2025.
yeah,
That's baseball.
that's my favorite / most depressing fact of the year. Is that the last 4 months, Andrew Vaughn was a better baseball player than Kyle Tucker.
The weird thing is, and I said this in the opening segment, if you were listening, you would have heard, but like Seo was awesome. Bush
Yeah.
was awesome. I think most of your relievers were pretty great. They weren't perfect, but I think everybody did their job. It feels like the Cubs are a Kyle Tucker away, and Kyle Tucker was on the team, and he wasn't Kyle Tucker for whatever reason. Are you guys just like, is he getting barbecued on Chicago sports radio? Because I feel like he should be.
Yeah, he definitely. I mean, it's a weird angle. I don't think he'll be back on the Cubs at all next year. But it's also a weird thing to where no matter what way you spin it, yes, he was horrible the last 4 months. No matter what way you spin it, the Cubs will be a worse baseball team next year if Kyle Tucker is not on the team and they just get filled in from other guys in the organization. Like if they replace him with Kyle Schwarber, sure. But like that's a big signing. If Tucker's not in the team, they're worse on paper. No matter
who was the kid who was playing outfield who had a couple big at bats against the Brewers? What happened to him?
Casey.
Oh, Casey. Yeah, where did he go?
He had a concussion in September and then just never made the playoff roster. We were never going to play him over Kyle Tucker in the playoffs.
Yeah, not over Kyle Tucker. I was like, what's that kid's name? Because maybe he slots in. I don't know. Were you as shocked by what Mizrowski did as I was?
Yes. I texted my friends the whole thing Game 2 when he came in. I think both fan bases are equally terrified of Mizrowski coming in because Cubs pessimistic. Like I don't know. I feel like Twitter just in general is always the pessimistic side of things.
No.
So Cubs Twitter is terrified that Miz is going to go 5 shutout innings, striking out 15. Brewers Twitter is terrified he's going to go walk in 4 runs. Like that's what that was. I feel like
duality of man.
Yeah. And Miz showed up. He performed. So good for him. Yeah, I will say I'm pretty much neutral for this NLCS.
That was gonna be my last question. We have about 30 seconds, so explain that to me.
Pretty much neutral for this NLCS. I'm not leaning one way or another. Obviously, I'm going to root for whoever comes out of the American League in the World Series. Don't like either Dodgers or the Brewers, but I'm excited to watch it. I'll say Quinn Priester is the most important guy in the roster for this NLCS.
He's really their only second, other than Peralta. He's the really only bona fide starter.
Priester needs to perform for the Brewers to make it to the World Series.
Easier to deal with a flop start in a 5-game series than in a 7. So I would definitely agree. We should do this again. Stop quote tweeting Bill Michaels. Why do you fight with your coach? You're not going to win.
Someday you gotta have a tweet that lands. I'm just putting up shots, man.
There you go. Just put up shots. Eventually one will go in. Okay. Austin, I appreciate it. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Maybe I'll be here again.
Well, if the Brewers win tonight, we might have to have you back. Be a good luck charm. I appreciate you. That's Austin Harper. Why are you fighting Bill? Hey, you just got to put up shots. Okay. All right, that's fine. I understand that. Back to your phone calls, and I'll get to your texts on the Brewers right after Zach Heilprin's update. Don't go anywhere.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, Aaron Ashby will be on the mound for Milwaukee when it faces the Dodgers tonight in Game 1 of the NLCS. That was the word from manager Pat Murphy when he met with the media earlier today. Ashby, just the opener, could be followed by Quinn Priester. This will be the second game Ashby will get the start in. He gave up 3 runs in Game 2 of the NLDS against the Cubs before being replaced in the second inning. Dodgers will be going with one of their top guys in Blake Snell. He's given up just 2 runs and 5 hits in 13 innings this postseason, holding an ERA of 1.38. This is going to be his first time facing the Brewers this season. Again, it'll be the Brewers and Dodgers tonight at American Family Field. First pitch at 7:08. Turn to the Packers. Coach Matt LaFleur believes Lucas Van Ness avoided a long-term injury in yesterday's game. The edge rusher dealing with a foot injury that happened on his third quarter sack was carted to the locker room. LaFleur unsure how long he'll be out, but it's nothing major. Meanwhile, safety Sean Bullard did not suffer a concussion. Instead, it's just dealing with a stinger. Packers will be back on the field for practice on Wednesday to start getting ready for a trip to Arizona to face the Cardinals. As for the Badgers, they're 27.5-point underdogs for Saturday's matchup with number 1 Ohio State. Kick is at 2:30.
Keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. Local agents, local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
Rural Mutual Insurance. Keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Bucks have signed another Antetokounmpo, agreeing to a deal with Alex to join Giannis and Thanasis. Milwaukee will be in Oklahoma City tomorrow for preseason action. Wisconsin ranked 24th in the preseason AP Top 25, which was released earlier today. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Look, when I bought the team 21 seasons ago, I pledged that to be a sustainable winner. But it got to the point where that really wasn't enough. We were all, heartbroken last year, obviously, but daunted. Murph has a T-shirt that says "Undaunted." Well, we were daunted because every year after 2018, we didn't advance to where we advanced tonight, and this was a key goal for us. And it's so special that this team, which set a record for wins, is the next team to get to the NLCS.
Just congratulations to the Brewers. It's a very good baseball team, and a team that earned their way for the right to play for the World Series. So that's a good baseball team.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
That's Mark Attanasio on the intro. The cut just made me laugh. It's like, well, we've been daunted because we haven't been out of the first round. It's like, Mark, just stop being so honest. Stop being such a normal dude. You own a Major League Baseball team. Just say our goal our goal every year is to win the World Series, and anything short of that is a disappointment. Just say that thing. Go drink champagne, party with the guys. And then, of course, I put the Craig Counsell cut in the intro because I'm a prick. What do you want from me? We're gonna get to the Badgers in a little bit, so I see some Badgers texts. I'm just gonna put a pin in those, and I'm gonna leave those. You get back to your phone calls here on the Brewers. And if you want to mix in a Packers take from yesterday, more than welcome. Just a pretty uneventful game. Sometimes games are uneventful. That doesn't mean it was the end of the world. Doesn't mean that we need to complain and scream, although I think there are things to nitpick, sure. I don't think they're the main story today, and I'm glad they're not, because then we get to revel in the Brewers advancing to the NLCS and winning their biggest playoff game. Certainly since maybe 2018, 2011, probably one of the 2 or 3 most important Brewers wins of my lifetime, and let's just say this era, this current iteration of Brewers baseball. Bobby and Nami says, can the Brewers please do the right thing and throw at Ohtani's ribs instead of giving him a chance to beat you? Possibly. Maybe that's something they're discussing. It drives me nuts when Ohtani jumps back to play up a ball that's on the inside when it's not anywhere near hitting him. That's just a small gripe of mine. And if he pulls that tonight, I will complain. So I'm just going to get out ahead of that one. Johnny Driftle says, excited they're going to be playing in a warm climate in LA. They seem to really fare well in warm weather, better than Philly Brew in 6. Send them a 6-pack. And you did call that, you said before, Obi or Ron in Madison, who called in with optimism. I don't think the Brewers will be hopeless on the road in LA the way that it felt at Wrigley. I don't think Dodger Stadium will be that same level of home field advantage for the Dodgers that Wrigley was for the Cubs. The Brewers are a good road team. Wrigley this time of year is just a little different. So, yeah, they need to defend their home field for sure. I don't think it's an impossible proposition to win in LA the way that maybe it felt in Chicago in the DS. Jay Krebs says Brewers are going to win tonight because the Dodgers won, and I don't think they'll be willing to fight with the Brewers like they have in the past. The Dodgers are coming off a World Series. The Brewers should, in theory, be hungrier. And again, I'm trying to convince myself or trying to tell myself that there will be mojo from winning that playoff series. The idea that the Brewers always had is just get in and get hot. They've got in, but they haven't been able to get hot because they can't get that first series win. They haven't been able to advance. Hopefully doing that allows them to vault in a way they haven't been able to the last couple of years, hopefully. Cindy in Madison says, I agree 100%, Grant. Get over it, Cubs fans, if this was personal because of Craig, so we fly the L. Yeah, I didn't need them to take a victory lap, but you get 24, 48 hours to shake your ass. The Brewers did that, and Cubs fans are like, oh, first thing you think about is the Cubs? Well, yeah, it's the team they beat, of course. Now, if it happens tonight, tomorrow, well, then yeah, then it's lame as hell, and we will call it out as such. But Saturday night, no, man, revel in it. That's how it works. Rockin' Rick says, friend of mine whom I played softball with, was always number 4. He burned his pile of shirts, including Brett Favre's Packers jerseys at once when he all went to the Vikings. Yeah, it's how sports work. So anyone who's like, I don't know why Brewers fans are so mad at Craig, well, go get your brain tested. I don't know. I'm not explaining this to you. And this text just says, Oregon bands and fans celebrated the jump around after beating the Badgers in the Rose Bowl. Yeah, that's what you do. When teams have traditions, when you beat that team, you mock or you parody their tradition. Imitation or parody, I think, is the most sincere form of flattery. So, Cubs fans, be thrilled at the fact that you have something worth parodying. Look at it that way. Coyote Mike, one more text here. Grant, I think 3-1 is much more fitting over the Cubs to banish them into the offseason. Murphy managed the game very well. Yelich must step up. I'm confident the Brewers will continue to do so as well, and they're due to break out offensively. Go Brewers. Yeah, Uribe for the final 2 innings was ballsy, but I almost kind of like it. Like, hey, Abner, you going to do this or not? And there's no bigger vote of confidence than telling a guy, go get 6 outs. So it worked. If it hadn't worked, we'd be second guessing, but that's the nature of the postseason. Okay, a couple callers who've been waiting. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Denny from Holman.
Denny! I bet you had a great weekend. How are you?
Hey, you don't have to apologize for hanging up on me after I waited 15 minutes.
I would never do that. Did I hang up on you? Did you not make it in one of the previous segments?
You did in the break, and all of a sudden I heard a bunch of scratchy, and then click.
We had to get to Austin, our illustrious guest. Wasn't that high-level sports radio?
You're right. I agree with everything you're saying. So I just wanted to say about the game yesterday, I was really disappointed in the 2 weeks they had preparation and to come out and play like they did. And LaFleur was like LaFleur, like he mismanaged the clock again, and his play calling, I thought, really was sucked. And
I thought there were some stretches in like that second quarter where it's like, why are we doing all the... I'm not petrified of a jet sweep like so many of you are. I do start to wonder why when Jordan Love is slinging it and the offense is moving, it's like, all right, bubble screen, jet sweep, bubble screen.
Right.
It's odd.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Right. And why don't we roll Love out? You know what I'm saying? Then he had that bonehead interception. But in my watching the Packers in all the years, I've learned that they never seem to play any better than the caliber of team they're playing. Yeah. And if you look at that, it makes a lot of sense. Like when they play the Vikings, a better team, they seem to play a lot better. When they play a low team, they seem to think they could just get in the field and let it go, and that's not the way it works. And, basically, I feel that if Green Bay would have played Washington or Detroit now, I think they would have get beat. I think they fell off that bad.
I don't know. I think they would have. I think they would have been fired up to play the Lions, and I think they would have been, ready to go. I don't know that was just because it was week 1. I think that was because they were playing the Lions. Now the Lions might have played a little bit better. That's totally with a couple games under their belt with new coordinators. I don't know. It's just really difficult. And Denny, I'm going to leave it there because I want to hit on that. So we'll talk more throughout the week. It's not just about who you play; it's when you play them, right? I think the Packers got the Lions and maybe the Commanders at a good time, although it's a Thursday night game. Like, I don't know that there was any massive advantage. The Packers were at home, so sure. But it's not like the Commanders had brand new coordinators and they're working out a bunch of stuff. Like, that was a pretty honest to goodness football game, and the Packers kind of gave it to them. I think they got the Lions at a good time. I think they probably, it's going to sound weird, Packers fans. You might not want to hear it depending on how frustrated you are with yesterday's game. I am not. Yesterday's game, I've already forgotten most of what happened yesterday. I could not care less. I could not be less bent out of shape about that game. I think they probably caught the Bengals at a bad time. They were roundhoused the last 3 weeks, and then they get this new quarterback. They get a little shot in the arm, and they played a little bit better, which was just enough for what could have been a 2-score game to be a 1-score game. You guys, you need to realize the Packers had not won a game since September 11th. It had been over a month yesterday. It had been a month and a day since they had won a football game. So I'm not telling you to just take a win, because style points do matter for teams that are, hopeful contenders. Of course. I'm telling you that they just needed a win. Now they're 3-1-1, and they're on the top of the NFC North. And I don't think they've played their best football yet, or they haven't played it consistently yet. Not saying that they will, but I don't even think they have yet. And now you just get back. You get one win. You see the ball go through a hoop in a way that you hadn't in the last 2 games, which are both very frustrating. And now you have a couple really winnable games this month. So you start to stack them, and you start to get a little bit better every week. I'm not trying to give you pep rally radio here. I just worked Bill's postgame show last night, and I worked Bill's show earlier today. And people are miserable. And they're like, I'm so sick of Matt LaFleur. I'm so tired of this. I'm so tired of that. I'm like, look, I have some nitpicks, but not every football game is going to make you feel incredible. Like sometimes a football game is just meh. It was just meh yesterday. They got to win and they beat a team that they were supposed to beat. They didn't quite cover. Whatever. I didn't pick them to cover for the record. I didn't think they would. And I told you this last week, when you go into a game demanding or expecting nothing but a blowout, you really warp the way you watch a football game. I think the Packers did lots of good things offensively yesterday. Their defense in the second half confused me a little bit, which is something that maybe we can talk about after our next break. That's actually my biggest takeaway. The defense and Matthew Golden are the two things that I'm kind of thinking about mostly. It was fine. It was fine. Sometimes games are just fine. Sometimes games are a little boring. Sometimes games are what we had yesterday. And if you want to nitpick this, that, or the other thing, fine. But the reaction on, holy smokes, on Bill's postgame show last night and today, I'm like, guys, I don't think this game has to be rocket science. Like, they just needed a win. They got a win over a bad team. It was close to being closer. It was very close to not being close. Like, it was a fine football game. And I know that's not high-level analysis, but the point is, I don't think this is a game that needs high-level analysis. That's my point, which is why I led with the Brewers today, and that's why we're going to talk about the Badgers in a little bit. I was just about to come back to the phone, but the caller dropped off. So call back if you want, 608-321-1670. I thought, we'll just do the Packers now. My two biggest takeaways yesterday, one is Matthew Golden, and I've been saying for weeks that when he is allowed to play wide receiver, he's pretty good at it. He's pretty darn good as a downfield wide receiver. That catch over the shoulder is a one that I've seen Jaden Reed drop and Christian Watson drop. That was Jordan Love's best throw of the day, and Matthew Golden hoovered it in a big moment too. And then his other catch was on third and 9? And it was in the fourth quarter on that final drive. And what I really loved about that play, what really got me going about that play, was that the play broke down and Jordan Love starts rolling left. The play had broken down. He leaves the pocket. And then on the replay, when you're watching Matthew Golden down the field, he looks back over his shoulder and sees that Jordan Love has been busted out of the pocket and the play is broken. And what did Matthew Golden do? He saw that and he darts towards the sideline to make himself available. I think the Packers wide receiving core is I think they've built a room of very talented, very toolsy individuals. The difference between this wide receiving core and some wide receiving cores that they've had in the past, and I'll use 2011 as an example. Clearly, those guys were better and more talented, clearly. But something that you noticed with those guys and that I noticed with other teams is there's lots of examples of wide receivers recognizing when their quarterback is in trouble and doing something to help them out. I think Stephon Diggs on the Patriots, if you've been watching Drake May's recent successes, Stephon Diggs and his success is a big part of what he does. Reading the play and understanding the play is broken down. Drake May is rolling. I'm going to ditch my route and go do this. I'm going to make myself available. I'm going to give my quarterback a play. And that's something that takes a little time. That's something that typically young wide receivers take a while to get. And I think in each of the last two Packer games, I can circle a play with Matthew Golden that highlights something a little bit deeper than him just running a route and making a catch. That fourth down grab that he made against the Cowboys in overtime was an instance of where he's running a route and he realized mid-route, I am in the soft part of this zone. I'm going to pause my route and sit here. I'm not going to continue, even though the play tells me I'm running this way. I'm going to stop and sit here because I'm open and I'm going to make myself available. And then on that third down yesterday, again, he's running a crosser or something. He's going from the middle of the field to the left boundary, if you were looking from the quarterback's perspective. And he saw that Jordan Love was rolling left, so he speeds back up and hits that area out on the flat along the sideline to make himself available. Those are the types of plays on crucial third and fourth downs that I don't know that Packers wide receivers the last couple of years have always made, or I don't know that those are situations that those guys have always recognized, and I don't totally blame them because they're all very young. I think that's a nuance of football that probably takes a little bit more time. I wouldn't know that for sure, but that seems to be a fairly nuanced part of playing wide receiver. And I noticed that yesterday. I said, that's juicy. I like that a lot. And Jordan Love even pointed it out after the game in the postgame presser. I said, I did see that correctly. Matthew Golden did recognize that Jordan Love was rolling left, and he made him that's high-level stuff. Those are the types of recognitions, and those are the types of plays that football players need to make in close games in the fourth quarter when the game is in the balance on third and fourth down. And those are the situations, as we've discussed, that this Packers team specifically has lacked. Even though the big picture counting numbers are great, like we're going to be bombarded over the head this week by Packers fans with graphs and with tables and things that are color-coded. Look at how unbelievable the Packers offense is. Look at how efficient. Look at how powerful or potent Jordan Love is down the field. all the counting numbers, all the big picture numbers are great. And then you watch the game and you're like, why do they only have 13 points? It's because they lack plays like that. And because Jordan Love is, I know he only has 2 interceptions this year. And I feel the need to remind people that because the way he's talked about, it's like he throws 3 every game. And they have been 2 very poorly timed interceptions. I'm not defending him. I'm not protecting him. I'm just saying it's not like it's every other quarter, folks. But I think the little things, those little nuances, and the occasional turnover, that's what's really preventing this offense from, in the game, matching what the data would tell you during the week, which is normally what Packers people like. Look at that, and you think Jordan Love's not good, and you think this offense isn't good. It's like, no, I don't doubt they have the capability. It's the execution in those 3 or 4 moments that decide football games where they lack a little bit, where it's like, man, they have how many yards, and they have how many? Why do they have 13 points? Seems like that happens a good amount. And Matthew Golden making plays like that will really help in that regard. 608-321-1670. Let's take another call. Wisco Sports Show. Who's that? Hello.
Hello, Grant. Hello, Grant.
Yes.
Cattleman How here, man.
Hey, what's going on, Ryan? How you been?
I'm great. I had a fantastic weekend of shows. It's a good weekend to be a Wisconsin sports fan, of course. And
especially if you don't get bent out of shape about the Badgers. If you can just ignore that and put that to the side, then it was a perfect weekend. It was great.
Oh, they are not even on my radar, man. I don't
blame you.
There's only so many things that we human beings can pay attention to all at once.
Very true.
Beyond our foremost passions, and not to get too philosophical, but I just want to do a little brake pumping on everybody freaking out that the Packers didn't blow out the Bengals. It's so simple, and you may have already even highlighted this, but they get paid too, and the Colts were favored, barely beat the Cardinals. They were heavily favored to beat the Cardinals, and they barely beat them. Same with the Cowboys losing, despite being favored to the Panthers. The Chargers barely eking out a win. They were heavily favored against the Dolphins. Packers, they were favored by, 13?
14 and a
Against
half.
the Bengals, they won by 9. 14
Yeah.
and a half. They won by 2 scores. I'll take it.
Yeah. So look, I'm not going to, Ryan, we're not telling people that yesterday was amazing. It was just fine. And my point is, like, sometimes a football game is just fine. And if it can just be fine and you get a somewhat comfortable win and position yourself, for a good part of the schedule coming up, it's fine. I'm not gonna drive myself nuts thinking about why they didn't win by 24 because and Ryan, people don't like to hear this. It is really hard to win in the NFL. I know that's a cliche, but I think that's something that gets lost. It's so hard to win football games.
Absolutely. Matt LaFleur preaches it almost he says that almost as much as he breathes in oxygen, period. But
every coach does. It's hard to win in this league. You hear it all the time, which is we hear it so much we don't even understand it, but it is true. As much as I hate to admit it, it's a cliche, but it's true. A lot of cliches typically are. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, exactly. No, you're fine. All I was going to point out, the other thing I wanted to point out is I do have concerns about the defense, but as I do, when you surrender a 10-minute, 15-second, 17-play drive, you're getting pushed around.
Yeah.
The lighter defensive interior on the line, they need to play better. Nazir Stackhouse, Brinson, Colby Wooden. Who's the other guy? Carl
Brooks.
I like
He's
Carl
more of a
Brooks.
pass rusher, though. Like McCarron was talking about this yesterday. I was listening to the game. He's more of a natural pass. He has more of a nose for getting after the quarterback than he does like TJ Slayton had a nose for stuffing the run.
Yeah, and Slayton is elite stuffing the run. He's one of the best, if not I can't remember if it's PFF grade or what. He grades out as one of the best against the run. Thankfully, with Jordan Morgan in at right guard, we started to see some holes really open up and guys getting to the second level, getting on linebackers and receivers blocking downfield. I love the want to from the receivers, but at least against the Cardinals, who's their backup quarterback?
Oh, Lord, I don't even know. I'd have to look. I'd have to go look, Ryan. I appreciate the call. And I guess that, we can talk about that as the week goes along. The running game was better. Like, I think there were little things. Jordan Morgan looked more comfortable at right tackle. At some point, I would not be against him just being the starter there. I know they like to rotate. at some point, if Jordan Morgan is better, and I think he is, just let him have the job, because then he should get better even faster as a second-year player who's toolsy as hell, which is why he was a first-round pick. To close, and I want to talk about the defense on the outside of the break, because I agree. You give up a 15-play drive, on some level, you're getting pushed around. I agree. We can talk about that. We'll go to break. This is Jordan Love talking about the Matthew Golden adjustment and the route that I was describing. A wide receiver recognizing his quarterback is in trouble, and I got to do something. I got to make myself available. So listen to this, and we'll go to break.
We had a concept called a deeper concept, and I felt the pocket kind of moving and a lane to kind of get out. So I started moving left, and MG was taking it deep and kind of saw me working the scramble, and so he was able to put his foot in the ground and come back down, and just threw it up for him. He made a great play.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show, we can talk a little bit about the Badgers. I'll continue to take your Brewers thoughts as well. I was very excited for tonight's show. I woke up yesterday actually kind of dreading the Packer game, because there will be certain weekends, and I think I've told you about this before, where before the Packers play, I'm like, I just need the Packers to win this game by the expected amount. Nothing fancy, nothing crazy. I don't need a big Packers story. I know what I want to talk about tomorrow night. I just don't want the Packers to mess it up. And yesterday waking up, I'm like, I just want to talk Brewers. I want to talk about how the fact that the Packers no-showed in by far the biggest game probably on their schedule this year. And we talked about that last week with Jesse. It was a huge game, and they completely no-showed. That's juicy to me. I'm like, I swear, if the Packers battle the Bengals within an inch of their lives, or they somehow lose this game, and I have to talk about that tomorrow instead of actually what I want to talk about, I'm going to be ticked. So I'm glad that we don't have to do that tonight. But we have mixed in some Packers talk. The defense is the thing that interests me or confuses me or perplexes me. I wouldn't even say it's a concern, but I don't really get it. So they played the Cowboys going into the bye, right? And the Cowboys had this brilliant game plan, and Dak Prescott, to his credit, did a great job executing it. We're going to get the ball out quick. Against this pass rush, we're going to get the ball out quick, and we're going to get the ball in the hands of our wide receivers or our tight end or our running back, and we're going to do it quickly. That ball's got to come out. And the Cowboys did a great job, and it worked. And it was clear that the Packers' defensive backfield, their secondary, really wasn't ready to combat that. They didn't really have an answer. I mean, they didn't have any answers against the Cowboys. They gave up a score basically on every single drive. And I thought going into the bye, well, this is a freebie, right? This is a freebie. The Packers and Jeff Hafley are going to realize, all right, the Cowboys figured something out, and the rest of the league is going to use that as the way to beat us. And they should. It's a copycat league. You ever hear that? Talking about coach cliches? That these defensive coordinators or offensive coordinators, I guess, in this instance, are going to watch film of Packers Cowboys and say, here's what Dallas did. We're going to copy this. And since the Packers were on bye, I thought they would clearly recognize that and say, all right, we got to come up with a counterpunch to that counterpunch. And I didn't really see it yesterday. Because in the second half, it felt like Joe Flacco and the Bengals were able to do a lot of the same things that the Cowboys were able to do. And to be fair, part of it was Joe Flacco throwing a prayer to T. Higgins or Jamar Chase, and those guys are awesome, and they made a couple of plays. So you tip your cap. That's football. But I don't know. I was hoping to see a little bit better counterpunch to the counterpunch, especially off a bye, and I left this game a little frustrated. I know they only gave up, I don't have the score in front. I don't even remember the final score. I've forgotten most of yesterday's game already. But I thought the Packers would have a little bit of a better answer or a wrinkle to be prepared for the ball coming out quickly, and it didn't really seem like they did. And that's a bummer. Like, that's frustrating because that's a schematic thing. If Jeff Hafley is who we all say that Jeff Hafley is, I would have expected him to have something, and they really didn't. The offense was just more of what we've seen. And I'm not going to lose my mind over that today. That's just a waste of time. We've done that conversation. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Alex and Madison.
Hey, Alex, what's going on?
I got some Badger thoughts for you, if you don't mind.
Of course, let's do it.
Yeah, so I think we can all agree that, Fickle, it's not going to work out, and he needs to be gone, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so I think something that I want to spread kind of the word on a little bit too is I think that they also have to be looking at the job that Chris McIntosh is doing. If you are trying to entice these boosters to donate money, are they really going to say, well, we're going to give this guy another shot to hire this coach? Because this is a historically, bad swing and miss, right?
This is what Jim Polzin, I would encourage all of you to go to the third hour of Bill's podcast today and listen to this hit with Jim Polzin, because he did a great job doing this. Firing Fickle accomplishes very little in the short and the long term. You need to then consider if Chris McIntosh is the guy you want making the next hire, because he has not done a lot of great things. Most of the successes, the current successes in Badgers athletics have nothing to do with McIntosh or hires that he's made. I don't know how long he's been there, what role he's played. I wouldn't be the right guy to ask for that. I think it even goes higher than that, Alex. It's like, is there a commitment level that's high enough in the levels even above Chris McIntosh? We're talking at the very top of the university. Like, in order to compete in this current climate of college football, you kind of need to be all in on it. And for a long time, I thought the Badgers were. It's like, well, they're good at football because they care more about it than the Gophers, or they care more about it. And I don't know that they do. So I agree with you, Alex, that it goes higher than Fickle. I would say it probably even goes higher than McIntosh, which is why this situation feels so hopeless right now.
Right. And where I think, too, is at the end of the day, as an athletic director, you have to focus on all the sports, too. I mean, there's people who went to women's basketball fundraising, and we've been trying to get that program back on track for a while, and they say, McIntosh, he doesn't show up to those. And I remember the days going to track meets and whatnot, and there'd be some days where Barry Alvarez would be sitting in the stands watching the track meets. It's a very culture-driven thing here, and McIntosh is simply just not really the fit for that. And again, the whole thing with demolishing the indoor track, that's another terrible thing, because if you watch the Olympics, you'll hear Wisconsin's name called every now and then for some of those distance runners.
Yeah.
The whole women's basketball scandal. I mean, if Fickle is gone and he stays, it's gonna be like Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, right? We're gonna be living this all over again.
Well, and I think the school, I mean, these are the things that they're weighing, Alex. I appreciate it. That's a really good call. These are the things they're weighing. It's like, well, I mean, Fickle's probably cooked. And I'm not saying, fire a guy. I don't even think this is all his fault. I think partially this is on UW, and they talked about this on the camp, Zach and Jesse did, where it's like, did these two really not do their homework on each other? Because it seems that maybe McIntosh didn't really know what Fickle was about, that maybe that was misread. And I don't know that Fickle really understood what he was getting into. He's shown a fundamental misunderstanding of what Big Ten football is and what it takes to compete in the Big Ten as the Big Ten's gotten even harder. So I don't have any doubt that they had lunch and they met, but it's like, did you guys really hash out what this needed to look like to be successful? Both from McIntosh and Fickle. And then even above McIntosh, like at the highest levels of the university, is there enough investment and is there enough care? Or is this just something that, yeah, we have football at UW and it's the jump around and Camp Randall's cool. Is that all it is? Because if that's all it is, you can replace McIntosh, you can replace Fickle, but there's a hard ceiling on the thing if that's the way that it is. And I don't know enough about the politics and all of these things. We should have RJ on from the morning show or Zach or anybody other than me, because I have a very rudimentary, limited understanding of this. I cannot believe how bad Saturday was. That was bad on a level that I could not have even fathomed. And I was going back and picking through our conversation with Jesse last week. What did Jesse say about this Iowa game? Because I said, Jesse, emphasize why this Iowa game is big. Help us, remember and understand that. And he talked about it. I'll play that audio for you coming back. But Jesse said, look, I don't think they'll no-show. They have to. This is such a huge game. And they didn't not just no-show. They no-showed. They no-called. There was a no in every single way. And a night game, too, against a rival. Man. And by the way, to your point, Alex, you got to care about all the sports. Yeah. Especially from a presentation standpoint, like you need to go have lunch with the volleyball coach, go to track practice, go to meets. Yes, show face, be involved, but you also got to understand that football pays the bills for a lot of these sports. Like it starts there. The health and the financial strength of an athletic department comes from the football program and that Big Ten TV money that's rolling in and the attendance and all of that. So while yes, you have to focus on all the other sports, I think especially from probably most of all from a cultural standpoint, but if you don't have money coming in through football, then you really don't have anything. 608-321-1670. Some more calls. The Brewers, the Badgers, whatever. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
L.
L?
L.
Is this Eric?
Eric on it.
Hey, Eric. You were cutting out whatever you spelled there. I did not make it out, but I'm sure it was funny.
Just said L.
Oh, AO. What's up, Eric? Sorry. I thought you were spelling something out.
A Brewers win deserves an AO, right?
I think so.
Good.
Yeah.
Probably, seeing how you're up in Timber Cooley
I was
this weekend. You got to go fishing, and the Brewers won, and the Packers won. It was a get right weekend for Grant Bills, wasn't it? Get right.
Yeah, and I didn't break
in many ways.
I didn't break my foot either. So that was a bonus.
Not only sports wise, but personally wise, because anytime you get up there, it enhances your personal life too, right?
I think so. You smell that fresh air, getting the blowing leaves.
Right.
Although the fall colors, I will say, just a side note, and this might be true across Wisconsin, the fall colors have really not popped. It's a lot of brown and green, and the locusts are yellow, but they've been yellow for a month. Poor foliage year, I will say, Eric.
Well, you sound like a typical Packer fan, not happy with a decent day.
I'm fine. I'm fine with it. There's no one more fine with what happened yesterday than me. It wasn't a barn burner. I'm not going to tell you it was the greatest game ever, but sometimes games suck. Like, hey, Vikings Browns last week. Did you find that to be a rich, compelling, interesting game with lots of takeaways, Eric? No, you watched them win and you're like, all right, that was nice. And you probably moved on.
I did. Yeah. Now we can move on to the Dodgers, right?
Oof. Yes.
No, it's going to be fun. We get more action. We get another series. That's perfect. We got at least 4 more games?
At least, well, and exactly. And this concept or this idea, Eric, I got to run because I'm late for a break. I'm sorry. Survive in advance. And again, as I've been saying, hopefully the idea of get in and get hot, hopefully it's working now. You win a series and you build on that. You beat the Cubs and you build on that. That gives you some mojo. You see the ball go through the hoop in a way that you hadn't the last couple of years because you haven't even been out of the first round. You can't stack successes if you don't get the first success. One more call here and then we'll go to break. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this? Louis?
Hey, Grant, Louis in Eau Claire.
I knew it. I recognized the noise of your car. What's going on?
The car hum of the old Ford Maverick.
Yeah.
Tells me off again. I don't know if you remember all the way back on Friday, but I believe I said I envisioned
Mr. Trevor McGill starting Game 5.
You did.
Doing a 3-up, 3-down inning and F-bombing people coming off the mound. I had no inside knowledge, but I'm glad to see that me and the Brewers organization are thinking along the same lines. We are not thinking along the same lines for tonight, though. Ashby's been out there twice, and I think there was actually turds left out on the mound from him pooping himself.
Yeah, it hasn't been good.
Times.
You got to be a little tighter to the zone than he's been.
This sounds crazy. From now, if for the Dodgers series, and if they were to advance to the World Series, I'm using either McGill or Koenig every game to open until they get hit around. I think with Koenig, especially with being a good kind of slow heartbeat lefty against Ohtani and Freeman,
Okay.
I'm doing that every game until they hit a long ball off of them. I think we've seen what the first inning does based on the whole Cubs series. I think if we have if we got Ashby out there half walking people, throwing a wild pitch here or there, giving up a long ball, I don't like how that plays out. I like him or Priester or any of these other guys, even Peralta, better starting in the second inning. What do you think?
So I agree with all that. They're probably going to open for Priester tonight. I appreciate it, Louis. I think to your point, you said you envision McGill going 3-up, 3-down, and then F-bombing. I think the F-bomb was just as important as the 3-up, 3-down. I think the energy that provided, and you're not getting that from Koenig, and you're not getting that from Ashby, using your closer in that game, in that spot, playing the intro, having him come in from the bullpen, like I think that not only gave the 1-2-3 inning, which was crucial, it was the first time all series, but it also charged up the dugout in a way that, like, if you lead with Grant Anderson, you're not getting that. Even if he strikes out all three guys, you're not getting that like you're getting it with McGill. And I think they needed a little bit of a shot in the ass like that. And McGill was the perfect guy to provide it. And it worked beautifully. And now we look back and say, brilliant management decision. And I guess you can't argue when it works out. Had it not worked out, then we can second guess. Why didn't you go Uribe? Why didn't you go Ashby or whoever? You know what I mean? We'll take a break. A little bit more Badgers talk. We'll continue to pick at the Brewers on the other side as well and continue to take more of your phone calls. 608-321-1670.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Zone Blitz pregame bash is back. Every Wisconsin home game 2 hours before kickoff at the Blue Moon Bar and Grill. And this year, do I have something special for you? It's a perfect snack for game day or any day. Wenzel's Farm Pro Snack Sticks. Come see me and I'll hand you 16 grams of protein to fuel you through the day. Wenzel's Farm offers that and so much more, crafted in small batches using premium cuts of meat, perfectly seasoned, and naturally hardwood smoked. Check out wenzelsfarm.com. Made by pros for pros.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Everything's okay. Let's move forward. Let's keep pounding the rock. Let's keep on doing all the stuff that good teams do. They just have to keep the faith and keep going. How do you do that when you spend so much time hammering home this idea of Iowa beating the out of you last year, and then you come here and get the beat out of you once again? I don't know how you move on from this. I don't know how you grow from this. I don't know how you recover from this. Not just this team, Luke Fickell. He has zero ground to stand on to say everything is going to work out.
Outstanding commentary from our own Zach Heilprin on the camp with Jesse Temple. Listen to it on the Wisco Sports Zone app or wherever you get your podcasts. I have nothing to add. I just thought it was a great little rant. I have some audio from Jesse last week just to further drive the knife in on how awful this loss was. But I'll take another Badgers phone call or two. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. This is Isaac calling from Madison.
Hey, Isaac. Appreciate it. What's going on?
Wisconsin athletics revenue brings in around $183 million every year from all athletics. $137 million of that is football.
Yeah.
So from a financial perspective, this is their most important investment. And at the time, I don't think anybody really debates that the number one hire of the 2022 coaching carousel was Luke Fickell. It was the right hire for us at the time. People were excited. It looked right. After 3 years of proving it doesn't work, I think it's no question that you have to move on. But the problem is we were already in a similar situation like this with Gary Anderson when Barry Alvarez was the AD. And after he only won 7 games, Barry canned him and moved on. So I don't think that firing midseason is smart. We did it with Chris. It made Jim Leonard look bad because he lost games, but it's not Jim Leonard's fault. The team was horrible. They weren't ready to go.
They had a,
So
they
if
had a
we do
shred
that-
of fight with Jim Leonard. People talk about like, well, when Jim Leonard coached, it looked way better. It looked
No, it
fine.
did
It
not.
looked fine considering what it was. You know what I mean? Like they had that did they
Correct.
fight against Michigan State or who was that? Like, I think he did.
The overtime game against Michigan
Yeah,
State.
he
We're in
did
a similar
fine with the situation he was given. Yeah.
So to kind of like round it out here, you have the hardest gauntlet in all of college football, harder than Auburn, harder than Purdue. And you have a sitting duck coach. It makes sense to keep him, lie in his bed with the choices and the team he's created, and save the next guy. The thing we have to watch out for is what are they going to do come end of season in November? If they don't make an aggressive hire, that $137 million revenue is in jeopardy. And if they do make an aggressive hire, then I think fans know we're doing everything we can.
Sure. Well, and I think that big picture question, Isaac, that's a great call. The big picture question, and you refer to this, what was it, $130 million? I would be curious to know how much of that is Big Ten television revenue that they're just going to get anyway. You just get by existing. It's like in the NFL. Like, yeah, you probably make a little bit more money if you win more. Merchandise sales, attendance, and sure. But you can own an NFL team and field a horrible product every week and rake in cash because of the television deals and it's split and the revenue goes in. So I would be interested to know of whatever, what did he say? 130 million is football or whatever. I would be interested to know how much of that is just television money because that's coming in regardless. And if UW, we'll see how they handle this. And this is why I think it, to a previous caller's point, it goes up to McIntosh and it might go even higher because I am unsure about the university's investment level in this. I am not the best resource. I'm certainly not the most educated and I'm not the most connected. I'm just trying to give you a big picture idea of what's going on because it's not as simple as just, kick Fickle to the curb and bring in someone who knows what they're doing. I think Fickle, here's what I think. I think Fickle is a fine coach. I think there was a fundamental misunderstanding from the rip from Fickle of what he was getting into and the, I guess, I don't even want to say complexities, but the dynamics of the Big Ten and what it takes to build a program and win in the Big Ten. And I think there was probably a fundamental misunderstanding from McIntosh on who he was hiring and the understanding that person had. So I think this marriage may have been doomed from the start, even though I think Luke Fickle is a half decent coach. I can't look you in the eye and tell you right now that he's a great coach. I think he's probably a fine coach. That never was equipped for this job or never did the homework or never had an understanding. What my question is now moving forward, because I think we all agree that Fickle's a dead man walking. And if you listen to Zach's commentary, they're like, what pitch does he have left in his arsenal? What does he have left? He's nothing. They built this whole thing around getting, boat raced by Iowa last year, and it can't happen again. And it happened again, and it happened worse. I mean, they no-showed under the lights in their own building. So Fickle's a dead man walking. The questions now become, what do they do with McIntosh? I know they're in the process of adding people and having some sort of a GM. Maybe that person takes hiring process away from McIntosh, and McIntosh is more of a figurehead, but I don't even know if he's been good at that based on some of the stories and some of the things that have taken place in UW athletics last couple of years. And then my question is going all the way to the top, and I don't even know if this is the chancellor, if this is regents. I don't know. Is there a bold and committed investment level from all of the people at the top to make this work? Or on some level, are those people okay with having a team that every couple of years has the schedule line up and they win a couple games and go to a bowl and we're going to collect the television money and that's it? Because we're not, a team that or a program or a school that is dead set on winning football games at any cost. I don't know if that's where the university sits. And again, I'm not the best resource on this. I'm just posing. These are the questions. These are the dynamics at play. That's why I'm sharing this. All right, one more call here, then we'll take our final break. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Ray Jordan, Mark, how are we doing, sir?
I'm doing excellent, Mark. What do you think?
So I haven't really been closely following the Badgers.
Okay.
I don't really have a horse in the race. I love all Wisconsin teams. The thing that sticks out in my mind is how much of this frustration, irregardless of the Iowa game, which holy nutballs, that's horrible, and by itself, it's bad. But
Correct.
If we didn't have the high level of transfer portal changing all this time, and I seem to remember back in the quote unquote back in the day, you had an understanding it takes time for a coach to build his team. And in that timeline, would we be saying, well, it's only year 3? You got a lot of good recruiting classes. We just got to wait for them to start playing. How would that change the conversation and the frustration? I mean, it would change it completely, game to game. But would people be taking more of a long view of, or would this have been the year? Hey, your recruiting classes got to start playing. I don't know. I'm just posing that question.
Well, I mean, I think, and Ridgewater Mark, that's good. I'm just up against it. I think now it's more important than ever to have early success. I think you're grading coaches on a curve now, or you're not grading coaches on a curve. You used to be able to do it. Well, they got to get their guys in here. Well, even if there was no transfer portal, he's now in his 3rd season. And I feel pretty confident that we can draw some conclusions about that. But there is the transfer portal, which makes it easier to get your guys in theory. If you are a good coach and you're building something strong and you're attracting the right guys, it should make it even easier to accelerate that process. And it's looked like the opposite. And also, it's important to remember, and if Vagabond John was here, he'd probably do 20 minutes on this if he called in. Luke Fickell was kind of the hire that was brought in because Paul Chryst didn't seem equipped to deal with what was coming in college football. You know what I mean? It's not like Luke Fickell was some old school, old-timey guy. Like, they brought in Luke Fickell because they thought the football program needed to be advanced and modernized in a way that Paul Chryst wasn't capable. So you're not making excuses for him, Ridgewater Mark. I know you're just posing the question. I think all of those asterisks, or all of those, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. All of those excuses, like, I just think they all fall really flat. Not just a little flat. I think they all fall really flat. So again, like to Zach's comment, like, I just don't know what Luke Fickell has left, because it was all built on not getting boat raced by Iowa, and then you get shut out and boat raced by Iowa at home under the lights. I don't know. I'll play that soundbite coming back from the next break for those who missed it, because it was really strong commentary from Zach, and I think it describes the situation. We'll wrap up the Wisco Sports Show coming up next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Let's go. 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
I mean, this is as big of a deal as it gets, other than Minnesota, because it's Minnesota and PJ Fleck and whatever else you want to put there. And the fact Wisconsin won that rivalry for 15 straight years. The entire offseason was spent focusing on the two losses to Iowa and Minnesota, but Iowa in particular, and the number 42, and the fact Wisconsin lost 42-10 a year ago in Iowa City, gave up 329 yards rushing. And I've said this before, but it felt like they had 5 running backs that all looked like they could have been Heisman Trophy winners based on how they performed in that game. When you had a quarterback who you knew wasn't going to throw the ball much, it didn't matter. That was the most run yards Wisconsin's defense had given up in 13 years or 12 years since that Rose Bowl against Oregon, which is just astounding when you knew Iowa was only going to do one thing. So the workout process this offseason focused on doing a lot of like number 42, push-ups here in the spring, other things in the weight room. So if you come out here and you lay an egg and you give up a bunch of points and you don't do the things you spent all offseason talking about, I don't know what's left for you.
That was Jesse last Wednesday, and everything he was describing there happened. If you don't show up and you give up a bunch of points and you lay an egg, I don't know what's left for you. Well, welcome to the Monday after. Last couple minutes of the Wisco Sports Show here. We didn't get to the mailbag. Kenny on the live stream's like, yeah, you forgot the Monday mailbag. There's just so much going on today. It's 10 minutes we don't have. We'll get back to it next week unless the Brewers have a huge game on Sunday. You know what I mean? There's just certain days where we're taking a lot of calls and the Brewers are about to play for a World Series, and there's a lot. So I made the executive decision, a little bit less grab ass today. One thing worth mentioning, and this confuses me, maybe we can ask Mike Clemens about this tomorrow. Bill Huber has a story out today, Snap Count, Studs, Duds, his normal Monday column, where he talked with Zach Tom, and Zach Tom said he didn't remember much of the second half against the Bengals because he was in so much pain. I don't understand what they're doing with Zach Tom. I did a radio hit with Ernie Betts in Viroqua this morning, who I saw this weekend. Very nice. We got to watch the Brewer game with him. It was a good time. I don't understand what they're doing with Zach Tom. And I feel like if not this week, very soon we are going to look back and wonder, why did they just not put him on IR for a month? Because it could be just about resolved by now. Or it would be in a much better place. They brought him back when he wasn't ready, shelved him again. And then they brought him back. And then today I realized, or got to read, that, well, I don't even remember much of the second half. I was in so much pain. What are we doing? Your franchise left tackle, you just gave a mountain of money. And it's October. In fact, his injury happened in September. I don't know what's going on here. So we don't have enough time to get into this tonight. Maybe we can do this tomorrow. Obviously, we're going to react a bunch to the Brewer game tonight, so we'll do that and connect with Mike Clemens too. But I do want to work that in. Like, it's just so bizarre. It's your franchise right tackle who should be entering the prime of his career, who you just gave a fat contract to, and he's not 100%, and he's in a ton of pain. And it would be one thing if it was December, but it's not even Halloween yet. In fact, the injury happened like a month before Halloween. You could have IR'd him for 4 weeks, brought him back, and been in a great spot. And I don't know that it would have impacted any of the results of the last 3 or 4 games because you lost the first 2 games with him anyways, or you tied the second one. I just don't get it. So put it on the list of things we can do tomorrow. Enjoy the Brewer game tonight. God help us. Our nation turns its eyes to Aaron Ashby. Thank you.